not really good at this, but good morning. If you're watching this right now, thanks so much for tuning in. For today's video, we will be prepping the E30 to get it wrapped. We will be removing all of the interior trim pieces. In addition, we'll also be taking out both the front and rear bumper. And then once that's all done, we will actually be sanding the car down. As you saw in the last clip, we ended up washing the car last night just to get a better view of what we're working on. But let me show you guys up close what we're going to be doing today.
So we will be removing the side trim right over here. Still thinking about removing the window trim. We may actually just leave this on. And then lastly, we will be removing both the rear and front bumper. But planning to swap out the diving boards with a brand new bumper, so stay tuned for that. But once that's all done, we will be sanding the car down. As you can see, we did a quick test on the hood. So I actually just picked up this Orbit sander, and we will be painting the car with some 220 grit sandpaper. Should be more than enough to smoothen her out before we wrap. So this is definitely important to sand the car down before we start wrapping. As you can see, the paint isn't in the best shape. The clear coat is peeling in a number of spots, and if you were to wrap over paint in this type of condition, obviously the surface will be uneven given the clear coat peel. But if you were to make any adjustments after laying the wrap, once you try to lift off the wrap, the paint will peel off with it, and obviously at that point your layer of wrap is basically ruined. So definitely don't want that to happen. So we will be sanding her all down, and with that we will go straight into us working on the car. So we got all the trim and both the front and rear bumper removed last night. Let me go ahead and show you the front real quick. So here's the front. Looks much better without the diving boards in my opinion. But for today, we will be sanding the car down with some 220 grit sandpaper. But I mentioned earlier that we would be taking off all the trim, including the window trim. But I was checking on the forums, and a lot of people recommended to keep these on if possible, considering the brackets holding these are super fragile. Plus, people who have wrapped the car with the trim on mentioned they had no issues with it being on. So I think I'll just be leaving these on the car for now. But that's about it, and we'll go ahead and start sanding her down. So we just finished sanding her down, and I must say that this was a much longer process than I originally envisioned. So we had hit the whole car with 220 grit sandpaper, which definitely smoothed everything down, and we were able to get the areas where the paint was peeling evened out to the rest of the surface. However, we had to kick it up another notch and hit the whole car again, but this time with 150 grit sandpaper. And the reason behind this was because there was a lot more sun damage paint that was not visible until we did a quick test and laid some sample vinyl. So majority of the areas on the car did pass the vinyl test, but when we laid out the sample vinyl on the areas where there was paint peeling, those areas passed because we sanded those spots down more finely, but the area near those spots somehow did not pass. And when we lifted off the vinyl, the paint did come off with it. So, and even though those areas were sanded down and didn't show any sign of sun damage, the paint still somehow peeled when lifting off the wrap. So let me give you an example. So initially the paint peel was right over here, so we ended up sanding that down, and then when we did the vinyl test, we actually laid the vinyl right over here, and that ended up peeling. So we ended up hitting this whole area with 150 grit, and the bad paint led all the way up to over here. So obviously we had to go all the way down to the bare metal just to make sure that the vinyl doesn't lift off with it. So we did end up hitting the whole car again with 150 grit to tear through any bad paint, and we did the vinyl test again, and all the areas thankfully passed. But the areas where there was some damage, you will notice those areas we had to sand all the way down to the bare metal just to be safe. But I will probably be hitting those spots where there is bare metal with some primer, just to be safe in case any water were to get under the wrap. But other than that, we are finally ready to get her wrapped. I just ordered the wrap today, so hopefully next video will be us getting that done. I will also be ordering a few more items such as wheels, bucket seats, body pieces, and other smaller items, so stay tuned for that. But with that, thanks so much for watching, and I will end the vid right here.